It's go time.
The boys are back. That's right, Florida Man Sports is here with another exciting episode. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. This is Florida Man Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Florida Man Sports.
Let's go.
Now, the Super Bowl is finally upon us. It starts tomorrow. What,
Yes.
6 o'clock's kickoff, I think it is, Chris? I
Yes,
don't know.
Eastern. Yep.
Now, while we're excited about the game, and while a lot of people are maybe feeling a little indifferent regarding, since it's the Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, two hated franchises outside of their respective cities, we're still excited about the game because it's still football, still the biggest game of the year. But before we get into the game, Chris, we have to talk about a couple of things that happened within the game. First, the NFL has announced their most valuable player. And it's not the player we thought it was going to be, or most people thought it was going to be. Josh Allen wins the the NFL Most Valuable Player Award.
Right.
Most people expected Lamar Jackson. What are your thoughts, Chris?
I think they got it wrong, Johnny. And just real quick, Florida Man Sports, we are streaming on all major platforms. But the AP chooses 50 people to vote. They voted, and they got it wrong. I don't care what angle you want to pick, whether it's a statistical angle, which I could gladly take with you.
Sure.
As far as the expectations were on the season for both teams, it's not like Josh Allen is playing for the Super Bowl right now. So, no, they got this one wrong. And it's disappointing. I know that you're probably going to allude more to the reason why behind it. But the bottom line, when you look at the statistics, Lamar Jackson should be your MVP. Number 2 should be Barkley, not Allen. And Allen should be maybe 3rd or 4th place consideration because he's got stats closer to Baker Mayfield than he does to Lamar Jackson.
Listen, this was a 3-horse race. It could have been Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Barkley. So let's just calm down with all this.
I will not calm down.
I'm well aware that there's a thing called voter fatigue, and I get it. People are maybe tired. We've all experienced it. If you live through the Jordan era, you know that this guy should have won it 10 years in a row. But people get tired of voting for the same guy. They want to give other guys an opportunity. This very well could have been that. But at the same time, let's stop pretending like Josh Allen isn't deserved of this award. He is. Obviously, so is Lamar Jackson. So is Barkley. So the fact that they handed it to Allen, let's just not make it a bigger deal than what it needs to be. The guy had bigger games. The guy led his team to a better record. Ultimately, it should have been. This was a team, Chris, that we both had written off. That most people who covered football before the season was like, their window's closed, they are done. This guy single-handedly, because he didn't have a good offensive line, didn't have receivers, didn't have a running game, didn't have anything, and he led them to the number 2 seed in AFC. Should have been number 1 if the NFL didn't love Kansas City so much. But still, he played, completely lights out. And Lamar Jackson had a great season. Arguably, the problem I think with Lamar Jackson that people are freaking out about is that he probably had the best season of his career.
Right.
He had other MVP seasons.
So why aren't you arguing with me, and why aren't you defending my point that they got this one wrong?
You're
literally answering it for me.
No, but you say these things, but it's the same conversation every year. His first season that he won the MVP, he had similar numbers to Tyrod Taylor. And people are like, what? How's it? Because you can always nitpick and really just analyze things and say, what? How'd you win the MVP? How you didn't? So let's calm down. There's seasons where he won the MVP. Maybe he shouldn't have. This season, you can argue he should have won it, but he didn't. But you're just, you're grasping at straws here. It's not something to where like a Luka situation, to where it's like everybody's figuring out how did you trade this guy to this guy. A conspiracy theory that is thrown out there is that maybe this is also the NFL's answer to creating some controversy, creating some buzz around the football or NFL in the game, because this past week everybody's been talking about the NBA and Luka and that whole deal. So maybe it's a possibility if you're into conspiracy theories that they made this so people get a little riled up. They did this to kind of have people focus more on the biggest game of the year and not what happened in the NBA with Luka.
It's a possibility, but the reality is they got it wrong, and it's okay to say that something is wrong. I'm going to leave it with this, short and sweet. This is the third time that somebody who's voted all AP number one quarterback, so he was the number one AP quarterback that did not win the MVP. Third time that's happened. You already and I talked about this when McNair tied with, was it Manning?
Peyton Manning, yes.
With Peyton Manning, and then the other time that Montana and Rice got into it, so the other guy won. So this is the third time that somebody just did not win it after being number one in the AP poll for quarterbacks. So sorry, I'm not buying it. It's not a conspiracy. They just got it wrong.
Stop pretending like that this guy ran away with the MVP, because if Barkley just would have played the last game of the year, he would have won the MVP. If Allen really would have played the last game of the year, it would have been like he would have numbers stats wise would have been that much closer
if Allen would
to
have
Jackson.
If Allen would have played that game, he would have really bridged the gap of 28 to 41 touchdowns. Yeah, he really would have bridged that gap.
Anyway, so you're talking about just one specific stat, and there's more than that, just touchdowns there. But ultimately, both teams lost in the playoffs,
right.
So both teams kind of ended there, and they both had the same result. But we wish him success. I'm happy for Josh Allen. Some people are hating on him. But let's move on to other news in the NFL. They announced the newest class in the NFL's Hall of Fame. 4 players inducted into the Hall of Fame, the smallest class, I think, in about 25, 30 years. It's been a long time, but great names, great players. Tell me about the players in the Hall of Fame, Chris, and what you think about.
Get ready to feel old.
Sure.
Florida Man Sports here. Tight end Antonio Gates, cornerback Eric Allen, defensive end Jared Allen, and wide receiver Sterling Sharp. The newest inductees, the smallest amount since how long?
It's since like the 90s.
Yeah. Smallest amount in. Before we always want to talk about the people that got left out, which I know that we will, Johnny. But what is your initial thought when I think about players like Antonio Gates? When I think about players like Jared Allen, I just remember that's what made me love football when I was such a kid back then. So all the names are well deserved, and then Sterling Sharp, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those guys?
I'm a little older than you, so I'll start with Sterling Sharp. Sterling Sharp for me is the second best wide receiver I've ever seen in the field. So Jerry Rice by far is the best. It's ridiculous watching this guy. It's amazing. Nobody's going to be at that level, especially how football was played. So even if I get somebody who comes close to that, so football's so softer now, so they allow the receivers to get away with so much more. But Jerry Rice is the standard, period. But Sterling Sharp is amazing. His career got cut short, had the neck injury. He was done. But this guy was the best receiver outside of Rice I've ever seen in the field, played with the Packers. Jared Allen, I remember him. I started his career with the Chiefs, and obviously I remember him more with the Vikings. After he did a sack, he did his little cattle rope thing. It was always fun to watch. Antonio Gates, amazing. He was a football player that wasn't. He started off as a basketball player, didn't touch the game, and then he kind of converted from basketball over to football. It's amazing how somebody who was undrafted, just a guy who's never started the game, say, hey, come play football, ends up being a Hall of Famer with the San Diego Chargers. It's fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I think a big story outside of those players, I know there's a fourth player that you mentioned there, but the biggest story outside of those players is the fact that first time on the ballot was Eli Manning. And people were upset about how the heck did this guy not make it. I know we'll get into it a little bit there, but Eli Manning not making the Hall of Fame in his first try is not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. The guy had amazing moments, amazing moments, the type of moments that everybody dreams about having. But ultimately in the regular season, he was an average quarterback at best. He had the longevity with the Giants because his last name is Manning, because they're going to continue giving a shot. But ultimately, if you look at the numbers, guys, Eli Manning threw as many touchdowns as he did interceptions. He, in an era where people were throwing 4,000, even 5,000 yards regularly, he was throwing 3,500 yards, if that. He just wasn't a consistent quarterback, but he had the key moments when it mattered most. So, hey, he got the 2 Super Bowl rings on his back. That's on him. Respect to him for that. But he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He'll make it eventually. I think it'll take a few times. What do you think, Chris?
No, I think that's completely wrong. I think that that you've got that wrong completely.
Not everything's wrong or right, Chris.
But it is, because voting, there's a right and a wrong, and in this case, you got to be voted into the Hall of Fame. And this is going to be the first time that you get a 2-time Super Bowl champion quarterback that is not inducted in the Hall of Fame. First time that's ever happened.
So?
And when you want to sit here and talk about the guy's stats and all that, I always say this to people all the time. When you win one Super Bowl, like Brad Johnson did for the Bucks, you get called a manager, a game manager, and that's fine. You know that happens, and you can win a Super Bowl that way. Trent Dilfer comes to mind too. But that being said, that wasn't Eli Manning. Eli Manning is a champion's champion. When he got to the biggest game, he won.
Champions champion.
Yeah, when he got to the biggest game, he won, and when he got there again, he did it again. And so for me, it's not even a question, and it's sad, obviously, that he didn't get in. Again, throwing out some stats, you're talking about over 55,000 passing yards not getting in on the first try. You're talking about somebody who had over 350 touchdowns not getting in on the first try. It doesn't make sense.
How many interceptions?
And so 200. So the total is 366 touchdowns to 244 interceptions.
Ouch.
Okay. Hey, look at Bradshaw interceptions. So.
You're talking about an era of football where steroids were prevalent. You can get away with anything. You can murder a player and just maybe get a flag.
I'm 100% with you, but remember that Eli is not that young either. He got into the time that he got into playing football, it was still pretty good, decent football. The defenses were still strong. Ray Lewis was still there.
Yeah.
So don't compare. You're talking about three different eras.
You're comparing
now,
like
the middle, and then
Bradshaw era to like the 90s and 2000s era.
As an example that quarterbacks are Hall of Famers that throw high interceptions. The last thing I'll say is this: that we can agree to disagree clearly on him, but there's also other players that missed out. You got Adam Vinatieri, who won championships with multiple teams. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer who gets skipped, and I don't want to just hear that he got skipped because he's a kicker. Give me more context than that. No.
Kickers.
No, I disagree.
Listen, even though Adam Vinatieri, in my opinion, is the greatest kicker of all time, kickers aren't football players. I mean, they're not going to get the same level of respect. I'm not knocking. Players themselves, like, yes, you're on the team, we depend on you, but you're not blocking, you're not fielding. Your job is to kick a ball. You're going to untouched. They touch you, it's a flag. Untouched, kick a ball. Kick a ball when we need you to do it. And that's that's their job, but they're not the same level. That's why I'm not mad that the greatest kicker of all time didn't make it first ballot. He will make it because he is the best kicker. Won on his leg championships with the Patriots and the Colts. So, yes, he deserves my respect. Deserves everyone respect, but he's still a kicker, so calm down.
He should have been in the first ballot. So, look, with Eric Allen getting in, Johnny Cinco, that basically means his wait is over. Darren Woodson is now on the clock. He's the Cowboy. Yeah, he's the Cowboy. Talking about 12 years in the league. He's next up on the list as the longest-standing player not elected to the Hall of Fame. But before we switch to the next thing here, John, let me give you some names. This is the next class of 2026 Hall of Fame. Give me a yes or a no.
Okay.
Drew Brees.
Yes.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Christian Human. Jason Witten.
No. Not Jason Witten? No.
Jason Witten, no?
No.
Oh, my God. All right. Frank Gore.
Yes.
Phillip Rivers?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
and then this coming year, then, Eli Manning?
One more.
Oh, God, whatever. And Vinatieri?
Stat-wise, Rivers has...
Vinatieri?
Vinatieri for sure.
Okay.
Like, Rivers and Manning came in the league, obviously the same draft. They got traded for each other. It was a whole mess. Everybody knows the story with them. But Rivers' numbers are significantly better than Eli Manning. Significantly better. It's like doubled. So I get it. So you look at stat-wise in terms of like, it's interesting, Chris. Would you rather have the career of Phillip Rivers, who had an amazing Hall of Fame career, never, ever won a Super Bowl,
Johnny, are you serious?
never sniffed a Super Bowl?
Are you serious right now?
Or
so he just said Phillip Rivers is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but Eli Manning was not.
If you look at the numbers, dude, I mean, I know we didn't. You didn't look at it here. Phillip Rivers, because the thing is that you're so focused on the two Super Bowls, which rightfully so. I'd rather have the two Super Bowls than even a Hall of Fame career. But Phillip Rivers had significantly better numbers than Eli Manning. So yes, Chris, he did. He was a better quarterback.
Florida Man Sports is why we're here.
Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Eli Manning, and it's not even close. Yes, he had a funny release. There's a whole thing there, but ultimately, it's unfortunate. I remember the year the Chargers had a chance. They had the number 1 rated offense, the number 1 rated defense. And they lost, I believe, in the first round. You know why they lost, Chris? Because they had the worst ranked special teams. They're the only team ever had the number 1 ranked offense or defense and then lose that early in the playoffs just because of the fact that they had the special teams was atrocious. It was so bad it really cost them. You don't have to have the best special teams in football, but obviously you cannot have the worst. So you continue to look on that, feed us back what you see in there, Chris, but you'll see that I'm right. But moving on to the game that we're all...
And to be fair, it's not about being right or wrong because...
It's not? Because you just said... I said it's not about right or wrong, and you're like, no,
not about the comparison.
Yes, it is.
Not
right
the comparison of the players, because I already agreed with you. I already know. I watched Philip Rivers play. I know statistically he was a better...
You agree with me? Because you were disagreeing with me the whole time.
He's a better quarterback, but what I disagreed with you on was this. He's not a first ballot. If Eli Manning is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, then Philip Rivers is not a first ballot. That's what I'm talking about, Johnny.
I disagree. You're 100% focused in terms of, I get it, the career-wise, the Super Bowl championships.
Yeah, but they both threw for over 40,000 yards.
Dude, yes, Rivers had much better stats, but there's plenty of players in the Football Hall of Fame that never won a Super Bowl. The Super Bowl doesn't get you in the Hall of Fame. Dan Marino it was an amazing quarterback. Never sniffed. I mean, he got the Super Bowl one time. He got rocked by Montana, but he never won a championship. He didn't, Boomer Esiason never won a championship. They still made the Hall of Fame. So just because you win a championship, Brad Johnson's not in the Hall of Fame. He won it. Trent Dilfer's on it. These are good careers.
I told you.
They're not. They were
game managers.
And so was Eli Manning. Eli Manning is not. Eli Manning was a terrible game manager, with the exception of key moments. The guys
like being in the playoffs and winning games and winning Super Bowls.
Anyone who references, Eli Manning's moments, literally there's 3 or 4 moments. Huge.
This man is just hurt. The damage, you can still see it in his heart.
Huge.
The Patriots got hurt. The Giants hurt him. He's still hurt.
Yeah. All our championships, I'm so hurt. So it's just he had huge moments. You wanted to take away from the running game, from the defense, everything else, that's fine. But he personally had huge moments. So it's talking about 3 or 4 moments in his career, but when they mattered most. So respect to Eli Manning, but just calm down. He's not a first ballot. He's not a second ballot Hall of Famer.
And neither is Philip Rivers. Florida Man Sports, streaming on all major platforms.
Anyway, let's get to what we all want to talk about.
Let's go.
We have the game tomorrow, big game, Chris. So we already know, if you've been listening to Florida Man Sports, we've made our picks. The Eagles are winning this game. Well, we predict them to win this game, but the Kansas City Chiefs always somehow find a way to win these close games. And we do anticipate a close game coming up here. But before we get to all that, Chris, who is winning the MVP? Let's start with that right now of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's going to be no other than Saquon Barkley. Saquon. Mr. Barkley is going to win the MVP. He's going to rush for over 100 yards. It's not going to be like a 200-yard blowout. It's going to be in the low hundreds, but I think he can get there. It's going to be at least a touchdown from him. And I know we're going to allude to the scores and all that, but I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring affair where Barkley is your MVP. Who do you got?
Okay, well, for me, I don't think it's going to be Barkley. Barkley has dominated in every game he's played as of late,
so you're
especially in the playoffs.
Slow down in the Super Bowl. You're expecting Barkley to be like, I'm going to be contained in the Super Bowl.
Well, when it comes down to the defensive coordinator for Kansas City, he's learned a lot from Belichick, and he follows that philosophy in terms of remove their best weapon. And they're going to go ahead and you throw an extra DB in the box, you figure things out here, and you limit that rushing attack, specifically from Barkley. So that means that this game is going to depend more so than ever on Jalen Hurts. So I have Jalen Hurts. It's going to be on his back to win this particular game, and his legs to win this game. So Jalen Hurts, it falls on him. They're going to contain Barkley to under 100 yards. Barkley's still a beast, so he's still going to get some things here going, but he's not going to have the type of games that we've expected from Barkley, even though the game does fall on his birthday. So it should be interesting. It is his birthday there. It'd be amazing if he can win it.
Don't flip-flop.
No, I said it's amazing if he can win it. We expect him to win the Super Bowl on his birthday. That will make the decision made by the coach to keep this kid from getting the record in the final game of the season, make it worth it, because they saved him, they saved the offensive line, and they actually win it. Losing the Super Bowl doesn't make anything better. The kid's still I think he'll maybe not admit it, but if he loses the Super Bowl, I think he was better off getting the record and being out in the second round.
You got to stop beating that horse, Johnny. You've been doing that episode after episode. You went from the coach is going to get fired after losing the first week.
If they lost the first week, yes,
you picked them to lose the first week, which is just tragic in itself. And then every other game you've been like, if he doesn't get to the Super Bowl, now he gets the Super Bowl, and it's like, he has to win it now. Stop it. I'm glad.
He doesn't have to win it?
I'm glad. Of course, everybody wants to win.
Okay. Really?
Everybody wants to win, but they're not going to fire the coach if they lose.
Of course not firing the coach if they lose.
So bottom line is this. We both agreed. We both picked the Eagles to win this one. We both have a different MVP, both on the Eagles side. But let me also add to this, Johnny. I don't think this game is going to be as high scoring as people think. The over-under is 48.5. I think it's going to be a lot lower.
It's going to be under, yes.
I honestly see this game being as one of those games that is both have the same game plan. They're going to want to control the ball. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to kill clock time. And the reason why I have him winning the MVP, Johnny, is because I see Jalen Hurts not passing. I see him rushing as well to get Barkley more room. You got two guys that can run the ball at any given time. That's going to help Barkley. So, again, I see it way under 48 points, and I do see Barkley obviously winning that MVP.
Mahomes and Hurts, 250 yards passing, over/under.
Oh, under.
And you already said you have Barkley going over 100 yards there.
Yep.
You see any over 100 yards for Kansas City? A combination of whether it's they're running an attack now?
I don't see Kelsey getting over 100 yards. I don't see any receiver getting over 100 yards, and I definitely don't see any rushing over 100 yards.
All right. Well, we'll see. I still see 300 yards from Hurts, combination of throwing and rushing there. So
I've got Brown as the only wide receiver that has the potential to probably give us 100 plus.
Yeah, I think the tight end attack from them. I think Smith can have a big game for the receiver for the Eagles, but ultimately it's going to fall on the back of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is going to have a better game than he did in the national championship with Alabama, where Tua took over for him. He better show up. Even though I bring it up there because obviously he was like just a kid, but he had a really good game last Super Bowl. He did. He probably had one of the best games of his career last Super Bowl against the Chiefs, and they still lost. Yes, granted, they just the refs gave this Kansas City the championship with the flags. The Eagles should have won the game, and then the flag in the end zone, and then we all saw what happened. But still, it's going to be hopefully a good game. But I have it 21-20. Eagles winning this game. Underneath, what was the spread? 45?
48 and a half.
So, yeah, I have it obviously at 41. So, 21-20, I have that game, a low-scoring game. You have the game at what?
I've got the Eagles winning 13-9, and not because I have all the squares that are 3-3, 6-6 on the NFL square game. Not just because of that, but because I ultimately do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The only touchdown going to Barkley, so 13-9 for the Eagles winning.
Well, guys, hope you guys enjoy the game. Please be safe. Make sure if you're going to drink, like most of us are during the game, make sure you drive home with a designated driver. Call an Uber, figure it out here. But it's going to be a fun game, Chris. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about some of the commercials, too. I'm excited about a couple of things, but really, I'm hoping for a good game. And God help us all if Kansas City wins.
We'll see you guys on the other one. He's Johnny. I'm Christian. We're out, y'all.
Later, guys.